The sun was sinking behind the wide plains of Montana, painting the sky in gold and crimson as the wind whispered through the tall grass. Dust curled in the air as a lone wagon rolled up the long dirt road toward the ranch that locals called Hollow Creek. A woman sat inside, her hands trembling beneath her faded gloves. Her bonnet shadowed her face, hiding her from the world, or perhaps hiding her from the men she feared most to see again. Her name was Clara Reeves, and she hadn't set foot on this land in 10 long years. Once, Hollow Creek had been her home. Once, she'd laughed here, worked the barns, and danced in the glow of bonfires under the stars. But that was before war, before betrayal, before she had to leave in the middle of the night with a secret so heavy it nearly broke her. Now, she was back, not for love, not for forgiveness, but because there was nowhere else to go. Her husband had died in the mines out west, leaving her with nothing but a letter, a few coins, and a will to survive. The wagon stopped at the fence, and the driver, an old man with kind eyes, tipped his hat. "You sure about this, ma'am? Folks say the Hollow Creek Ranch don't take kindly to strangers." Clara smiled faintly. "I'm not a stranger." "Not really." Her voice caught in her throat as she stepped down. The ranch stretched before her, acres of rolling fields, cattle grazing near the river, and the same red barn she once helped paint. It hadn't changed much. But time had changed her. She wasn't the wide-eyed girl who left this place with tears and promises. She was older now, hardened, and yet her heart still beat with the memory of one man, the cowboy who once owned it all. Ethan Cole. The name still carried weight in her chest. The man who had once sworn to marry her, who had searched for her for months when she disappeared, who had built this ranch from the ground up after losing everything in the war. Rumors said he'd become cold, silent, reclusive, a man who spoke more to his horses than people. Clara told herself she didn't care. She was only here to ask for work, nothing more. But her heart whispered otherwise. The ranch hands noticed her first. A few curious glances, a few whispers. They thought she was a widow looking for shelter, or maybe a runaway. No one knew the truth, that she had once been the heartbeat of this place. She stood at the porch of the main house, clutching her shawl, when the door opened. He stepped out. Ethan Cole looked just as she remembered, only stronger, broader, with lines carved deep into his face from years of sun and sorrow. His hat was pulled low, his shirt sleeves rolled up, his hands rough with work. But it was his eyes, those piercing blue eyes, that froze her where she stood. The same eyes that once looked at her like she was his whole world. He didn't recognize her at first. Why would he? She had changed, the softness gone, her hair now streaked with the dust of miles traveled. But then, as she spoke, her voice, trembling, something in his gaze shifted. I heard you were hiring help for the kitchen," she said quietly. "I can cook, clean, and sew." Ethan tilted his head slightly, his jaw tightening. "You from around here?" "Once," she whispered. There was a pause, long enough for the wind to stir between them. Then, Ethan stepped closer. The porch creaked under his boots. And when his eyes met hers, really met hers, the air seemed to stop moving altogether. "Clara," he said softly. Her breath caught. He knew. For a moment, all the years, all the pain, melted away. She saw the boy who'd given her a daisy on her 16th birthday, who promised he'd build her a house by the creek. She saw the men who'd held her hand before he left for war, swearing he'd return. And when he came back, she was gone. Her lips parted, but no sound came. She wanted to explain everything, why she'd left, how she'd found his letters too late, how her father had forced her away after Ethan's name had been blackened by rumors. But all she could do was stare at him through tears that burned her eyes. Ethan didn't move for a long time. Then, slowly, he smiled, a sad, tender smile that broke her heart in two. "I'd know those eyes anywhere," he murmured. The words hit her like a wave. She'd spent 10 years believing he'd forgotten her, that she'd become just another ghost from his past. But here he was, standing before her, still remembering, still seeing her through the layers of time and pain. I didn't think you'd recognize me," she whispered, voice shaking. "I tried not to," Ethan said, stepping closer. "But you don't forget someone who taught you what love feels like." The sun dipped lower, and for the first time in years, Clara felt warmth she'd thought long dead. They stood in silence, eyes locked, the world around them fading into nothing but memories and second chances. That night, Ethan offered her a room in the house. She refused at first, insisting she'd sleep in the barn, but he wouldn't hear of it. "You belong here more than anyone," he said simply. Days passed, and Clara found herself breathing life back into the ranch, cooking, fixing, laughing softly with the workers who came to respect her. But every night, when the stars filled the sky, she'd find herself on the porch, watching the moonlight spill over the fields, wondering if she could ever tell him the truth. Because she hadn't just left Ethan behind. She had taken something with her. Something he never knew existed. One evening, as the wind carried the scent of rain, Ethan joined her on the porch. He leaned on the railing beside her, quiet as ever. "Funny how time don't heal everything," he said finally. Clara turned to him. "Some wounds aren't meant to fade. They remind us what we still feel." He looked at her, eyes soft. "You still feel it too?" Her heart pounded. "Every day." For a long moment, neither spoke. Then, Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, weathered ribbon, faded, blue, edges frayed. Clara gasped. It was the ribbon she'd tied around his wrist the day he left for war. "I kept it," he said quietly. "Even when I thought you'd forgotten me." Her eyes filled with tears. "I never forgot you, Ethan. I just couldn't come back." He turned to her, voice low and rough. "Why?" Clara swallowed hard, tears falling freely now. "Because when I left, I wasn't alone." Ethan froze. The meaning hit him slow, then hard. He turned to face her fully, disbelief flickering in his eyes. "Clara, you mean?" She nodded, trembling. "A daughter. Her name's Grace. She's 9. She has your eyes." The silence that followed was deafening. Then Ethan's eyes glistened as a shaky smile tugged at his lips. "You gave me a daughter," he whispered. Clara covered her mouth, sobbing softly. "I'm sorry, Ethan. I wanted to tell you. I thought it was too late." Ethan stepped forward, gently taking her hands in his calloused palms. "It's not too late. Not for us. Not for her." The sky broke then, rain pouring down, washing the dust from the earth. Ethan pulled her close, holding her like he never meant to let go again. And for the first time in 10 years, Clara felt home. The ranch glowed with lantern light that night. Hope filled the air again. A cowboy who had lost everything found what he never stopped searching for. And a woman who had run from her past finally found her future waiting in his arms. As the storm quieted, Ethan looked into her eyes and smiled, the same smile that had once stolen her heart, the one she'd dreamed about every lonely night. And Clara knew, some eyes are never forgotten. Some love stories never truly end.